In the vast tapestry of the Milky Way, Earth was an insignificant blue speck on the edge of galactic maps, a backwater world barely noticed by the towering empires of the galaxy. Its inhabitants, humanity, were known primarily for their odd traditions, inexplicable stubbornness, and the ability to adapt to almost any environment. Yet, on one particularly ordinary day, Earth became the stage for an event that would ripple through galactic history like a supernova. It began with an unassuming bar on the outskirts of Houston, Texas, a place called the Rusty Tankard. The bar was a hodgepodge of neon signs, battered stools, and a jukebox that only played classic rock. It was frequented by rough-and-tumble regulars who sought solace in cold beers, greasy food, and good-natured banter. That night, the patrons were enjoying their usual rowdy camaraderie when the impossible happened. The sky outside cracked open, not with thunder but with light. A massive starship descended, its surface gleaming with alien metals and intricate etchings. It landed with an earth-shaking thud in the dusty parking lot, crushing 2 pickup trucks under its immense bulk. The patrons of the Rusty Tankard froze, mugs of beer halfway to their lips, as a ramp extended from the vessel. Out walked a delegation of the Zarkon Dominion, an aggressive alien species known for their towering frames, serrated exoskeletons, and penchant for conquest. Their leader, a fearsome figure named Overlord Zarnak, strode forward. His voice boomed, translated through an elegant device on his chest. "Humans of Earth," he declared, his multifaceted eyes scanning the bewildered crowd. "Your planet is hereby annexed by the Zarkon Dominion. Resistance is futile. Bow before us and surrender your resources or face annihilation." The crowd stared at the aliens wide-eyed. The silence was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then from the back of the room a single voice broke through. "Hey, what the hell are you doing in my parking lot?" The speaker was a middle-aged man with a weathered face, a battered cowboy hat, and a t-shirt that read, "Born to ride, forced to work." His name was Buck Johnson, the proud owner of the Rusty Tankard. Buck stomped forward, beer in hand, and glared at Overlord Zarnak. "Listen here, big guy," Buck said, gesturing wildly with his mug. "I don't care how fancy your spaceship is. You're blocking my customers. Move it or we're gonna have a problem." Overlord Zarnak tilted his head, confused. "You do not understand. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to conquer." Buck took a long swig of his beer, wiped his mouth, and then handed the mug to his friend Hank, standing nearby. "Hold my beer," Buck said, his voice dripping with determination. The bar erupted into laughter, not because they underestimated the threat but because they understood what was coming. For Buck, like many humans, had a peculiar tendency. He didn't take kindly to being pushed around. The Zarkon delegation watched in confusion as Buck marched up the ramp of their ship, his boots clanging against the alien metal. Overlord Zarnak followed, intrigued but unalarmed. What could one human possibly do? Inside the ship, Buck stopped in the middle of a gleaming corridor filled with alien technology. He looked around, nodding appreciatively. "Nice place you got here," he said. Then he turned, cracked his knuckles and grinned. "Let's see how it handles some good old Texas hospitality." Without warning, Buck launched himself at the nearest alien console, his boots smashing through the delicate interface. Sparks flew as alarms blared. Zarkon warriors lunged at him, but Buck was quicker. He grabbed a loose cable and swung it like a whip, sending a cascade of electricity through the air. The rest of the bar patrons, emboldened by Buck's audacity, rushed outside. Armed with pool cues, bar stools, and whatever they could grab, they stormed the ship. Hank, still holding Buck's beer, shouted, "For Earth," and charged into the fray. The Zarkon, despite their advanced technology, were unprepared for the sheer chaos unleashed by the humans. The invaders relied on precision and order. The humans countered with unpredictability and ferocity. It wasn't long before the ship's interior was a battlefield of overturned consoles, spilled alien fluids, and shattered equipment. Overlord Zarnak, pinned under a toppled support beam, stared in disbelief as Buck stood over him, holding a fire extinguisher like a club. "You made one big mistake, pal," Buck said, his voice calm and resolute. "You underestimated humanity." With a final swing, Buck knocked Zarnak unconscious. The remaining Zarkon warriors surrendered, their mandibles clicking nervously. The humans, battered but victorious, herded the aliens into the bar, where they were forced to sit on the floor under the watchful eyes of the patrons. Buck reclaimed his beer from Hank and raised it high. "To Earth," he declared. The bar erupted into cheers. But the night wasn't over. As the humans celebrated, the ship's communications array flickered to life. A holographic image of the Zarkon High Council appeared, their expressions a mixture of horror and confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the lead counselor. "Why are our warriors being held by primitive creatures?" Buck stepped forward, his beer still in hand. "Listen up, you shiny bugs," he said. "We're not the kind of folks who roll over for anyone. You want to mess with Earth? You'd better be ready for a fight." The counselor sputtered, unable to form a coherent response. Buck leaned closer to the hologram and added, "Oh, and if you're thinking about sending reinforcements, just remember, this is what one little bar in Texas can do. Imagine what the rest of the planet's like." The counselor's mandibles quivered. We will reconsider our approach," he stammered before the hologram vanished. The patrons of the rusty tankard roared with laughter and applause. Buck downed the rest of his beer and grinned. "Now who's up for another round?" As the night wore on, the humans celebrated their victory with the captured Zarkon, teaching them the ways of Earth's hospitality. By the end of the night, even Overlord Zarnak was seen holding a mug of beer, albeit reluctantly. The story of the rusty tankard and the humans who stood their ground would spread across the galaxy, a tale of defiance, resilience, and the simple power of one phrase: "Hold my beer." The story of the rusty tankard's defiance spread faster than anyone could have imagined. In the modern galactic network, news traveled at the speed of light, hopping from star system to star system, picking up embellishments along the way. Within days, every corner of the galaxy buzzed with tales of a small bar on a backwater planet that had humiliated the mighty Zarkon Dominion. For the Zarkon, this was an unthinkable disgrace. Overlord Zarnak, freshly returned to his command ship after the encounter, fumed in private quarters. His exoskeleton was marred with scorch marks, and one of his upper limbs still twitched from the electrical shock Buck had delivered during the skirmish. Worse, his warriors, the best in his fleet, had returned cowed and sheepish, muttering about pool cues and barroom brawlers. The High Council of the Zarkon convened an emergency meeting, their holographic forms floating around Zarnak like translucent judges. Their multifaceted eyes gleamed with suspicion and anger. "Explain yourself," hissed Counselor Ryzak, his mandibles clicking furiously. "How could a primitive species like humans subdue an entire conquest delegation?" "It was an anomaly," Zarnak growled, refusing to meet their gaze. "Their tactics were unconventional." "Unconventional?" another counselor snapped. "You mean they overpowered you with sheer chaos? What's next? Shall we expect them to conquer our fleets with musical instruments?" The council dissolved into heated arguments, debating whether to retaliate immediately or re-evaluate their approach to Earth. But while the Zarkon stewed in their embarrassment, the galaxy watched and waited. On Earth, the humans who had participated in the barroom battle were still grappling with their newfound fame. The rusty tankard had become an interstellar landmark overnight. Hovering drones from alien news agencies crowded the skies above Houston, broadcasting live coverage of the bar and its patrons. Buck Johnson found himself at the center of the chaos. He'd become a reluctant hero, fielding interview requests from alien journalists who spoke in clicks, hums, or ultraviolet light signals. "I didn't ask for this," he grumbled to Hank one evening, sitting in his favorite stool at the bar. "I just wanted to keep my parking lot clear." Hank chuckled, sipping his beer. "Well, buddy, you've done more than that. You've made Earth a name to remember." As if on cue, a sudden commotion erupted outside. Buck and Hank stepped onto the bar's porch to find an alien delegation waiting for them. This group wasn't Zarkon. Their skin shimmered like liquid mercury, and their elongated limbs glowed faintly in the Texan twilight. Their leader stepped forward and inclined their head respectfully. "I am Velir, emissary of the Velir Collective," the alien said, their voice melodic and soothing. "We have come to thank you." Buck raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? For what?" Velir's form rippled like a disturbed pond as they continued. "The Zarkon Dominion has oppressed countless species for millennia. Your actions against them have inspired hope throughout the galaxy. You've shown us that resistance is not futile." Buck snorted, still skeptical. "I didn't do it to inspire anyone. I just wanted my beer in peace." "Nonetheless," Velir said, "you've ignited a spark. The Velir Collective wishes to stand with humanity. Together we could form an alliance to resist the Dominion." The idea of an alliance sounded appealing, if only to stop the swarm of alien news drones buzzing around his bar. Buck scratched his chin, thinking, "You want to stand with us? Fine. But if you're gonna stick around, you'd better learn how to hold your liquor." The Velir emissary looked puzzled but nodded solemnly. "We shall endeavor to understand." The following weeks were a blur of activity. The Velir emissaries became a common sight at the rusty tankard, their shimmering forms attempting to blend in with the rowdy crowd. Buck took it upon himself to teach them human customs, often to hilarious results. Watching a Veeler try to play darts, or drink a beer without absorbing it through their skin, became a nightly spectacle. But beneath the humor lay a serious purpose. Veeler and their people were sharing something valuable in return: technology. They showed humanity how to amplify their crude communication systems, how to create energy shields that could protect entire cities, and even how to retrofit Earth's aging satellites into defensive platforms. Humanity's ingenuity, combined with Veeler knowledge, rapidly transformed the planet into a fortified stronghold. Of course, the Zarkon weren't blind to these developments. From their distant strongholds, they watched Earth's growing alliance with mounting dread. What had started as a minor nuisance was now a legitimate threat. And so they prepared. The day of reckoning came sooner than anyone expected. It began with the arrival of a colossal Zarkon fleet, their ships blotting out the stars as they entered Earth's orbit. The Dominion had decided to end the humans' defiance once and for all. Overlord Zarnak, still nursing his wounded pride, stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring down at the blue planet below. "No more games," he hissed. "No more barroom antics. This time we crush them." On the surface, humanity and their Veeler allies braced for the worst. The rusty tankard had become an impromptu command center, its walls lined with holographic displays showing the incoming fleet. Buck, now wearing a patched-together set of combat armor that still looked like it belonged in a thrift store, stood at the center of the chaos. "Everyone ready?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. Hank, holding a pool cue that had somehow been fitted with an alien plasma blade, grinned. "Born ready." The first wave of Zarkon ships descended, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that lit up the night sky. But to their surprise, the humans' newly installed energy shields held firm. The counterattack was swift and devastating. Retrofitted satellites fired beams of concentrated light, slicing through the Zarkon fleet like a hot knife through butter. The rusty tankard erupted into cheers, but Buck raised a hand to silence them. "Don't get cocky," he said. "This isn't over yet." And he was right. As the Zarkon fleet regrouped for a second assault, something unexpected happened, a ripple of movement among their ranks. Smaller ships began breaking formation and fleeing into the void. It wasn't fear of Earth's defenses driving them, it was something else. The galaxy had been watching. And one by one, species oppressed by the Zarkon began rising up. Hidden resistance fleets, emboldened by Earth's example, emerged from the shadows and struck the Dominion's supply lines, communications hubs, and outposts. The galaxy was rebelling. Overlord Zarnak watched his fleet crumble, his mandibles quivering with rage. He turned to his crew. "Retreat," he spat, the word leaving a bitter taste in his mouth. On Earth, the humans and Veeler watched as the Zarkon ships vanished from their skies. Buck leaned against the bar's doorframe, taking a long sip from his beer. "Well," he said with a satisfied smirk, "looks like they finally got the message." But deep down he knew this wasn't just about Earth anymore. The galaxy had changed forever. And it all started with one stubborn man who refused to move his beer. The stellar forum was filled with a cacophony of noise as alien delegates argued among themselves. The humans had left the meeting chamber after Captain Bishop's explosive declaration. The phrase "hold my beer" had sparked heated discussions, each species frantically trying to decode its cryptic meaning. Could it be a battle cry? A Talgorth diplomat hissed, their mandibles clicking nervously. Perhaps it's a cultural idiom for self-sacrifice, suggested a Ragnarok philosopher, his gelatinous body quivering with anxiety. A lone delegate from the Ergnath Alliance offered a chilling hypothesis. What if it's a warning? Something akin to, "prepare for annihilation." The room descended into chaos as theories spiraled out of control. The humans had intentionally left no clarification, allowing the phrase to grow into a legend. Hashtag back on the Serendipity. On board the human vessel, Captain Bishop leaned back in his chair, the faint hum of the ship's engines thrumming beneath his feet. He was deep in conversation with Dr. Elena Zhao, the linguistics expert who had recommended the phrase. "Care to explain the brilliance of 'hold my beer'?" Bishop asked, raising an eyebrow. Zhao smirked, sipping her coffee. "It's perfect. Ambiguous, yet universally unnerving. To humans it's a jest, a way of saying, 'Watch this, I'm about to do something reckless.' But to aliens who don't understand our cultural nuances, it sounds both ominous and profound." Bishop chuckled. "You've weaponized humor. I never thought I'd see the day." Their conversation was interrupted by a message from the ship's comms officer. Captain, we're picking up unusual fleet movements. It seems the other species are mobilizing. Mobilizing? Bishop frowned, leaning forward. Against us? Not yet. But they're preparing for something. They think we're about to unleash hell. Bishop exchanged a glance with Zhao, who shrugged. Well, Captain, they wouldn't be wrong. Humans are unpredictable. Let's lean into that. ##### The galactic misinterpretation. Within days, the rumor of humanity's enigmatic phrase had spread across the galaxy. On every major colony, holographic displays blared news about the humans' declaration. Entire civilizations began preparing for an unprecedented confrontation. In the shadowed council chambers of the Galactic Forum, the Korther representative addressed an emergency session. The humans have shown restraint for centuries, despite their technological advancements and unpredictable behavior. But this phrase, hold my beer, signals a shift. We must consider preemptive action before they act on whatever madness they've planned. The Forum agreed to deploy reconnaissance teams to Earth and human territories, desperate to uncover the supposed weapon or strategy humanity was preparing. Meanwhile, ordinary humans on Earth and their colonies remained blissfully unaware of the galactic uproar. In one corner of a spaceport bar on Mars, a group of miners laughed uproariously as a friend attempted to balance a glass of beer on his forehead. The phrase, hold my beer, echoed cheerfully, utterly divorced from the ominous context the galaxy had ascribed to it. ############################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################### An alien reconnaissance ship approached Earth's orbit, its crew trembling with anticipation. They had orders to observe and report, but their nervousness led to a critical error. A miscalculation in their cloaking system exposed the vessel to Earth's orbital defense grid. Within seconds, an alert was raised on the planet's surface. Unidentified vessel detected, an officer reported in a command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Actions? Asked the general. Non-hostile but intrusive. Should we scramble fighters? No, the general said, a mischievous smile creeping across his face. Send them a message. Something disarming? Moments later, the alien ship received a transmission. The words, translated into Galactic Standard, simply read, "Hold my beer." The alien crew panicked. The captain, a seasoned veteran of interstellar diplomacy, ordered an immediate retreat, leaving their cloaking device behind in their haste. When news of the incident reached the Galactic Forum, the aliens' worst fears were confirmed. Humanity wasn't just technologically advanced, it was cunning, using psychological warfare to dismantle its enemies. #Human diplomacy unleashed. On Earth, Captain Bishop and Dr. Zhao were summoned to the United Nations Space Command to address the growing tension. Humanity had unintentionally spurred the galaxy into chaos, and it was their job to fix, or exploit, it. Captain Dr. Zhao, your little stunt has the galaxy teetering on the edge of war, an official said, his tone both scolding and impressed. But it's also given us leverage. They fear us now. Zhao nodded. Fear is a powerful tool. But we should balance it with diplomacy. If we can show them that humanity isn't just a threat but a potential ally, we might reshape our role in the galaxy. Bishop grinned. So, we keep them guessing. A little fear, a little friendship. The perfect recipe. #, a message to the stars. The humans crafted their response to the Galactic Forum carefully. In a broadcast transmitted to every corner of the galaxy, Captain Bishop appeared, flanked by representatives of Earth's diverse cultures. His words were deliberately vague yet inspiring. Humanity has always embraced challenges with determination and creativity. Our phrase, "Hold my beer," is not just a saying, it's a promise. A promise that we will rise to any occasion, face any foe, and extend our hand to those willing to join us in the spirit of exploration and cooperation. The choice is yours. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The Galactic Forum reconvened, their paranoia tempered by cautious hope. Humanity had, in one masterstroke, cemented its reputation as both a potential threat and a beacon of possibility. The other species agreed to open negotiations, their fear of human unpredictability outweighed by their curiosity and desire for survival. Captain Bishop leaned back in his chair aboard the Serendipity, raising a glass to Zhao. Well, Doc, it looks like the galaxy just learned what it means to hold our beer. She clinked her glass against his. Let's just hope they don't ask what's next. The galaxy held its collective breath. Humanity's cryptic phrase, "Hold my beer," had sparked a seismic shift in interstellar politics. Entire species re-evaluated their understanding of the seemingly unassuming humans. What had been an uneasy coexistence now felt like a precarious gamble. Yet, within that gamble lay the spark of something greater, a potential alliance forged from both fear and fascination. ######The summit. Weeks later, the Galactic Forum convened a historic meeting on the neutral planet of Anharan Prime. Every species was represented, their fleets hovering in uneasy truce above the shimmering world. At the heart of the Grand Assembly Hall, Captain Bishop, Dr. Zhao, and a delegation of human leaders stood ready to face the galactic powers. The hall itself was a marvel of architecture, its dome showcasing the stars above as if to remind everyone of the enormity of the stakes. Alien delegates whispered nervously, their unease heightened by the humans' calm, almost playful demeanor. The Kortha representative was the first to speak, their voice resonating through the chamber like grinding metal. Humans, you have disrupted the balance of the galaxy with your reckless actions. Your phrase, *hold my beer*, has caused widespread panic and confusion. Explain yourselves? Captain Bishop stepped forward, his expression unreadable. Explain ourselves? Very well. You misunderstood us because you assumed we were like you, predictable, cautious, bound by logic. But humanity thrives on chaos, adaptability, and yes, a little humor. That's what *hold my beer* truly means. It's a challenge. A declaration that we will face the impossible and make it possible. The room erupted in murmurs. Some delegates were intrigued, others clearly frustrated. A representative of the Vrength, their serpentine form coiled in agitation, hissed, "And what if this so-called challenge leads to conflict? To destruction?" Dr. Zhao interjected, her voice calm but firm. "It doesn't have to. Humanity's strength lies in our ability to unite under pressure, to innovate, and to find solutions where none seem to exist. We don't seek conflict, but we won't back down from it either. What we offer is partnership. Together we can push the boundaries of what's possible. Or you can continue to fear us and miss out on what we bring to the table." The weight of her words hung in the air, the delegates exchanging uneasy glances. #####The test. As the summit continued, tensions began to ease, but the galaxy's mistrust lingered. To bridge the divide, Captain Bishop proposed an unprecedented joint mission, a rescue operation on a distant planet caught in the grip of a catastrophic solar collapse. The mission would require cooperation between multiple species, each contributing their unique technologies and expertise. The delegates hesitated. Trusting humanity was a risk, but the opportunity to save lives, and test the humans' intentions, was too important to ignore. The vote passed narrowly and the mission was greenlit. On board the Serendipity, Captain Bishop stood at the helm of a fleet unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Ships of every shape and size, representing dozens of species, moved as one toward the dying star. The mission was a crucible. The combined fleet faced challenges that would have overwhelmed any one species: gravity distortions, electromagnetic storms, and collapsing stellar debris. But humanity's unorthodox thinking proved invaluable. "Hold my beer," Bishop muttered to himself as he ordered the fleet into a daring maneuver, using the Serendipity's experimental graviton drive to stabilize the collapsing star long enough for the evacuation to succeed. The phrase spread like wildfire through the fleet. Alien crews began to adopt it, their fear giving way to a strange sense of camaraderie. The mission was a resounding success, cementing humanity's reputation not just as a wild card but as a capable and valuable ally. ####### A new galactic order. The rescue mission marked a turning point. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity's true potential, not as destroyers but as pioneers. The Galactic Forum reconvened to formally invite humanity into the Council, not as a subordinate species but as equals. Captain Bishop and Dr. Zhao stood before the assembly as the Kortha representative, once one of humanity's fiercest critics, made the announcement. By unanimous decision, the Galactic Forum recognizes humanity as a founding member of the newly established Galactic Accord. The hall erupted in applause, a sound that echoed across the galaxy. For humanity, it was a moment of triumph, a vindication of their unique place in the universe. #####Epilogue. Months later, in a quiet corner of a spaceport bar on Mars, Captain Bishop raised a glass to Dr. Zhao. The holographic news display overhead showed images of the newly unified Galactic Accord fleet, a symbol of interstellar cooperation. "To chaos and courage," Bishop said, clinking his glass against Zhao's. "And to never explaining what hold my beer really means," Zhao replied with a smirk. As they laughed, humanity's message to the stars remained clear. They were here to stay, ready to face the unknown with humor, ingenuity, and unshakable determination. The galaxy had learned to respect, and even admire, the chaos of humanity. And somewhere, on countless worlds, the phrase "hold my beer" became a rallying cry for those willing to embrace the impossible.